evolutionary history of zebras begins more than 50 million years ago with a small forest-dwelling mammal known as Hyracotherium or Eohippus, an ancestor shared by all modern horses, donkeys, and zebras. This early equid was no larger than a fox, with several toes on each foot and teeth suited for browsing soft vegetation. Over millions of years, climatic changes gradually transformed much of the northern hemisphere's dense forests into open grasslands. This environmental shift created evolutionary pressures favoring longer legs, increased body size, and specialized hooves for efficient running across expansive plains. As the equid lineage diversified and new genera emerged, the ancestors of modern equines migrated from North America across the Bering Land Bridge into Eurasia and eventually into Africa. It was there, in the evolving savannas and woodlands, that the earliest forms recognizably related to zebras appeared between 4 and 4.5 million years ago. These proto-zebras were already distinct from the ancestors of horses. Fossil evidence indicates that they developed more robust teeth capable of grinding coarse African grasses, which were tougher and more abrasive than the vegetation found in many Eurasian environments. Their bodies became compact and muscular, suited to rapid acceleration and agility, traits that would prove essential against Africa's numerous predators. Perhaps the most iconic development in their evolution, the striped coat, arose gradually. Though scientists continue to debate its primary function, research has shown compelling evidence that striping deters biting flies, which are less likely to land on striped surfaces. Additional studies suggest roles in thermoregulation, with temperature gradients between stripes helping manage body heat in hot climates, and in social recognition, allowing zebras to identify individuals within large herds using unique stripe patterns. These adaptations contributed to the emergence of the 3 modern zebra species: the plains zebra, the mountain zebra, and the Grevy's zebra, each adapted to distinct African ecosystems ranging from rugged highlands to arid savannas. Unlike horses and donkeys, zebras never became domesticated animals, despite repeated attempts by humans throughout history. Their evolutionary experience shaped them into highly reactive animals whose primary defense is immediate flight. Living alongside powerful predators such as lions, hyenas, and wild dogs, zebras developed a hypervigilant temperament. They are quick to bolt at sudden sounds or movements, and they possess a powerful kick capable of injuring even large carnivores. Their social structure also differs from that of horses, which evolved in large, stable herds with clear dominance hierarchies conducive to human-led training. Zebras form looser family groups, or, in the case of Grevy's zebras, more fluid territorial systems with less predictable bonding. These traits make them resistant to the kind of consistent handling required for domestication. Historical records show that various explorers, colonists, and scientists attempted to tame or train zebras, especially during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Some believed zebras might serve as valuable transportation animals, especially because of their resistance to diseases spread by tsetse flies, which often killed imported horses. A few individuals managed to harness zebras to carts or, in rare cases, ride them. But these instances were exceptions achieved at great effort and never produced a reliably trainable population. Attempts to breed zebras selectively for docility also failed because the animals did not easily reproduce under captivity or controlled conditions. By the 20th century, the scientific consensus became clear. Zebras are not domestication candidates, and their evolutionary path has kept them firmly within the realm of wild animals. Even though zebras were never incorporated into ancient economies as beasts of burden, they nonetheless held cultural significance in various African societies. Rock art produced by San and Khoisan peoples often features zebras alongside antelope, giraffes, and other wildlife. These images reflect a deep familiarity with the animal as an important part of the ecosystem and a frequent target in hunting traditions. To hunter-gatherer cultures, the zebra symbolized both a source of sustenance and a representation of the beauty and abundance of the natural world. In northeastern Africa, ancient Egyptians encountered zebras through contact with regions such as Punt and Nubia. While horses and donkeys dominated Egyptian transport and military activity, depictions of striped equids occasionally appear in artistic and ceremonial contexts, usually signifying exotic tribute animals rather than working companions. Zebras did not participate in the military strategies of ancient civilizations. Their temperament made them unreliable for chariotry, cavalry, or transportation in any form. Horses fulfilled those roles due to their trainable nature and social compliance. However, zebras influenced trade and daily life indirectly. Zebra hides were valued for their striking appearance and were traded among African communities. Their meat supplemented local diets, especially in regions where seasonal migrations made zebras abundant. In some eastern and southern African societies, zebra skins were incorporated into ceremonial attire, symbolizing qualities such as alertness, vitality, or a connection to the untamed parts of the natural world. In the development of early human industries tied to animal labor, zebras played no active role. They were neither draft animals nor transport animals, and they did not contribute to the rise of pastoral economies. Instead, their significance lay in hunting, resource use, and later in scientific and cultural fascination. European colonists, upon encountering zebras, were immediately captivated by their appearance and strength. This led to renewed attempts, ultimately futile, to train them for activities such as pulling carriages or serving as riding animals. Some colonial figures managed to hitch zebras to carts for short, controlled demonstrations, but these episodes were more curiosities than functional labor. The zebra's wild disposition always resurfaced, making extended or practical use impossible. The lack of utilitarian value also meant that zebras never developed the sports traditions that grew around horses or dogs. They were not raced, trained for agility, or used in competitive events. Their role in modern recreational culture instead arose from wildlife appreciation, safari tourism, and conservation activities. Observing zebras in their natural environment became a form of recreation, education, and ecological appreciation. Modern reserves sometimes include programs in which participants learn to track or identify zebras, but the animal never crossed into the realm of domesticated sport. Agriculture, too, remained a domain separate from zebra utility. During Africa's agricultural transitions, communities relied on livestock such as cattle, goats, donkeys, and eventually horses or camels for farming and transport. Zebras, with their strong instincts for flight, were not suited for plowing, pulling loads, or carrying goods. Instead, they sometimes represented a challenge for farmers, as zebra herds could compete with livestock for grazing or occasionally damage crops near wildland boundaries. Even during periods of intense colonial expansion, when European powers introduced large-scale farms, zebras remained outside agricultural systems. Their ecological role continued unchanged, wild grazers shaping grassland dynamics through their feeding patterns, not laborers in farming economies. During the Industrial Revolution, the zebra gained attention not as a worker, but as a subject of scientific curiosity and exotic display. Zoological gardens and private menageries showcased zebras as symbols of Africa's unique fauna. Naturalists studied them to better understand evolution, speciation, and adaptation, especially after Charles Darwin's work brought evolutionary theory into public focus. Some researchers experimented with crossing zebras and domestic equids, producing hybrids known as zebroids. These hybrids occasionally displayed a mix of zebra striping and horse or donkey morphology, and were sometimes used for novelty work or as exotic pack animals. However, zebroids never became widespread or practical in agricultural or industrial settings, and were largely confined to experimentation and exhibition. In therapeutic and emotional contexts, zebras do not serve the direct roles that horses or dogs fulfill. Their unpredictable behavior and sensitivity to confinement make them unsuited for hands-on therapy programs. Yet zebras have nonetheless found a place in certain therapeutic or educational experiences, particularly within wildlife sanctuaries and conservation centers. These programs use zebras symbolically, teaching participants about individuality, community, and the importance of biodiversity. Observing wild animals, including zebras, can play a role in mindfulness-based therapy, helping individuals reconnect with nature and develop emotional grounding. The zebra's distinctive patterns and social behavior often serve as metaphors for uniqueness, resilience, and interdependence. Many people form emotional connections with zebras through this symbolic lens, finding inspiration in their beauty, their social cohesion, and their representation of Africa's threatened but resilient ecosystems. In the realms of art, literature, and mythology, zebras have long held a place as striking symbols of the African landscape. Their instantly recognizable striping pattern has made them a natural subject for artistic representation across centuries and cultures. In many African societies, zebras appear in traditional paintings, carvings, beadwork, and textiles, often serving as emblems of beauty, freedom, or natural order. The contrasting black and white stripes lend themselves to interpretations of balance, duality, or harmony between opposing forces. For example, in some southern African traditions, the zebra symbolizes the delicate equilibrium between chaos and structure found in the natural world. Artists incorporate the animal not only as a literal depiction, but also as a metaphor for the blending of diversity into unity. These themes reappear in modern African art, where zebras often stand for the strength and identity of the continent. In literature, their presence ranges from African folk tales to globally popular children's stories, usually portraying them as playful, unique, or misunderstood creatures whose differences are sources of pride rather than disadvantage. Mythology also offers explanations for the zebra's unusual markings. Many African folk tales describe how the zebra came to wear its stripes. Narratives involving trickster figures, magical events, or accidents that transformed an ordinary animal into a distinctively patterned one. Among San storytelling traditions, for instance, there are tales involving zebras encountering fire or conflict, resulting in the charred stripes that mark them forever. In some East African stories, zebras begin life as plain-colored animals, but gain their stripes through cleverness or misfortune, reflecting broader cultural themes about intelligence, humility, and the unpredictability of existence. Although zebras do not hold the same mythic power as lions or serpents, their presence is significant because they represent the wild, the unclaimed, and the boundary between domesticated life and the freedom of the savanna. Their mythology is tied not to divine intervention or origin myths, but to the lived environment of the people who told their stories. An environment where zebras were visually striking but fundamentally untamed. The cultural impact of zebras extends outward into broader human society, influencing how people around the world understand wildlife, aesthetics, and identity. In many modern cultures, zebras serve as symbols of Africa itself, appearing in national logos, conservation emblems, and educational materials. Their patterning often represents diversity, unity, or the coexistence of different elements in harmony. For communities living in close proximity to zebras, the animals can embody grace, alertness, and survival in the face of harsh conditions. In some cases, zebras are seen as sacred or spiritually significant animals because of their distinctive appearance. Their black and white stripes have been interpreted as signs of cosmic balance or as metaphors for moral complexity, neither purely good nor bad, but existing in the space between. Psychologically, zebras evoke curiosity and wonder. Research on human responses to animals suggests that visually unusual patterns, such as stripes, capture attention more readily than plain coloration. This may help explain why zebras feature so widely in children's stories, zoo exhibits, and conservation campaigns. They offer a gateway into discussions about biodiversity and adaptation, making them compelling ambassadors for wildlife education. Their herd behavior, marked by social bonding, mutual vigilance, and coordinated movement, can inspire reflections on community and cooperation in human societies. For individuals who engage with wildlife tourism or therapeutic nature programs, seeing zebras in their natural environment can reinforce feelings of awe, grounding, and emotional resilience. Even though they are not domesticated and rarely interact with humans directly, zebras have shaped human perceptions of the wild and continue to influence how people conceptualize the value of ecosystems. Despite their symbolic significance and ecological importance, zebras face substantial modern challenges. Human expansion into once open landscapes has fragmented many of their traditional migration routes, especially in East and Southern Africa. Plains zebras, which historically covered vast distances in seasonal movements, now encounter fencing, development, and agricultural fields that restrict their travel and reduce access to water and grazing. Mountain zebras, adapted to highland plateaus, have experienced habitat shrinkage due to livestock encroachment and land degradation. Grevy's zebra, the largest and rarest species, has suffered dramatic population declines caused by habitat loss, competition with livestock, and reduced water availability in arid regions. Poaching, particularly for hides and meat, continues to threaten zebra populations where law enforcement is limited. Conservation efforts have become essential to counter these threats. Many African countries have established protected reserves and national parks that preserve crucial zebra habitats and safeguard migration routes. Community-based conservation has also emerged as an important strategy involving local populations in wildlife protection and sustainable land management. These programs recognize that long-term conservation must align with human needs, providing economic incentives for local communities to protect animals rather than hunt or displace them. Anti-poaching patrols, ecological monitoring, and habitat restoration projects further support zebra survival. Advances in wildlife management, such as ecological corridor planning, controlled grazing systems, and international conservation partnerships, have helped stabilize some populations. Rewilding efforts in certain regions aim to restore grassland ecosystems and re-establish zebra populations in areas where they were once extirpated. Because zebras contribute significantly to ecological balance by grazing in ways that influence vegetation structure and reduce the risk of overgrowth or wildfires, maintaining their populations is important for the health of the savanna biome. Technology now plays a significant role in monitoring and caring for zebra populations. Researchers use GPS collars to track migration patterns, allowing conservationists to identify obstacles such as fences, roads, or areas of human conflict. Aerial drones assist in counting herds, surveying remote regions, and detecting illegal activity. Camera traps provide information about zebra interactions, behavior, and predator-prey dynamics without disturbing the animals. One of the most innovative developments is the use of artificial intelligence to identify individual zebras by their unique stripe patterns. This technique replaces invasive tagging methods and enables accurate population surveys, which are crucial for conservation planning. Genetic analysis also helps scientists understand population health, breeding patterns, and the risks of inbreeding in isolated groups. Veterinary technologies such as portable ultrasound and rapid diagnostic tests allow field teams to assess injuries or diseases and respond quickly in critical situations. As these technological tools advance, ethical considerations become increasingly important. Conservationists must balance the need for monitoring with the responsibility to minimize stress on wildlife. Questions arise about how much human intervention is appropriate in managing wild populations, and whether long-term survival should rely on habitat protection rather than technological assistance. Ethical debates also include the impact of ecotourism. While tourism generates funding and public support for conservation, it can also disturb wildlife and place pressure on sensitive ecosystems if not managed carefully. Sustainable tourism practices aim to minimize these harms by controlling visitor numbers, setting strict reviewing guidelines, and directing revenue into community and conservation programs. Looking to the future, the role of zebras in human society will continue to evolve. Although they will never become working or domesticated animals, their ecological importance and cultural symbolism ensure they remain significant. As climate change intensifies droughts, alters vegetation patterns, and shifts predator-prey dynamics, zebras will face new challenges requiring adaptive management. Conservation strategies may include creating additional wildlife corridors, expanding protected areas, and implementing water management systems that support both wildlife and human communities. Education will also play a vital role, fostering appreciation for zebras and highlighting their role in maintaining ecosystem health. By helping people understand the interconnectedness between wildlife, landscapes, and human well-being, conservationists can build broader support for protecting zebras and their habitats. Ultimately, the future of zebras depends on cooperation among governments, scientists, communities, and environmental organizations. Efforts to preserve biodiversity, reduce habitat fragmentation, and maintain healthy ecosystems will determine whether zebras continue to thrive across the African continent. Their resilience, social complexity, and striking appearance have already shaped human imagination for millennia. With thoughtful management, ethical stewardship, and technological innovation guided by ecological respect, zebras can continue to play their essential roles in the landscapes they have inhabited for millions of years, ensuring that future generations witness their beauty, behavior, and cultural significance first.